And welcome everybody to Brothers from Another Mother. Dudes talking about stuff, guys just hanging out, having a good time. I'm here, Sub 60 Ed, your host for tonight. We got Alex on tech, we got Jim the Nature Boy, we got Crazy Man, and I think we may have a couple others that will be joining us along the way. But as Nature Boy and I were talking right before we came on the air, we're going to address something. I made a Facebook post. And my longtime friend, the Nature Boy, said, "I didn't know you were a boat shaker, rattler, whatever, troublemaker. Thank you, troublemaker, what have you."
My fault. He's been hanging around me too long.
Yeah, that's probably true too. No, what I was saying was, I made a comment regarding St. Joe's basketball. This can actually be a general sports conversation we have right here. Made a comment regarding St. Joe's basketball. The current coach has a sub 500 record, and he was hired
not for this season.
For the first 6 years,
right? Okay.
So I compared that to Coach Martelli, Phil Martelli, who's a friend of ours, who we worked with while we were at St. Joe's way back in the day.
True.
And I checked to see what Coach's record was, and it was his first 6 years at St. Joe's as head coach was greater than that. And then I just said, for shits, this is what happens when you sit home, you're job searching, and you've done everything you can, and you get freaking bored as hell.
You're not doing the dishes?
No, I've already done. That's already done. No, I have my chore for the day. I get that done. I go to the gym, and then it's like, yeah. Then I go, and I got whatever else.
Too much time.
Needs to make that list a little bit longer.
Yeah. So. Basically, I was saying, I made a call out to the student body at St. Joe's and the alumni that are local and saying, hey, do we need to start looking at a new somebody or another? And I don't know. I guess the question becomes, just in general, when do we kind of give that shot? When is it too long for any sports team? You know, it's like the Redskins went through 500,000 coaches. You know, so it's like, where does it end? Where do you have to pull the trigger and say, you know what? The fan base deserves better.
Is it the coach or is it the players?
But actually, I think at the college level, I think it has to start with the coach, because the coach brings in the players, in my opinion.
No, they do, but the players have to live up to what they're supposed to. I mean, I went to a pretty good wrestling school in high school. And when you got to the team, the coach can tell you what you need to do, but it's your responsibility. It's your job.
Okay.
I mean, if you really want to go back and look at the Deadskins, I mean, they basically had a very good Cinderella story. Once they got rid of Dan Snyder and some of those other coaches, look how the locker room was.
You just proved my point, my friend. You just pulled that the player base didn't really change, but we brought in better coaches and ownership, and that helped.
Not necessarily. They brought in a different frame of looking at things, but you're holding the players accountable for what they do. I mean, ultimately, the coach can have the best scenario set up for the field, but it's the players that have to go out there and do it. I mean,
I don't know. Right, they have to execute, but wouldn't you agree? Would you agree? Would you agree that you have to bring in the right players to fit your system? And Jim and Alex, chime in. I mean, this argument can be used for soccer, for anything.
I think the difference from what I see, difference between college sports and like professional sports, like say basketball, college basketball, and say NCAA and like NBA. In college, I think a coach is like a god. Okay, he controls the players. He can do whatever he wants. In NBA, sometimes coaches or whatever they call them nowadays, are afraid of players because players have better influence, make more money, can push coach around and can get him fired. It's easier than in college sports. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong.
I'll definitely agree with that.
It's like, okay, I give an example. I mean, I've been following, soccer since like 1982, which, 40 plus years, right? So it was one of the great coaches of Manchester United was Sir Alex Ferguson. And when he got hired back in I think, 90s and stuff, first couple of years, he was trying to build a team, they were not as great, but the management was patient with him. Eventually, he became great and he won so many titles and cups and whatnot. But these days, no one has the patience. They hire a new coach, they want him to deliver like in the first year. If he doesn't, next. Unfortunately, it's different kind of dynamics, if you will.
Yeah, Mike, we're talking about this actually got started with a post that I put on Facebook about how the current St. Joe's men's basketball coach over his first 6 years has a sub 500 record compared to the man he replaced who was well over 500. And when Jim and I were at St. Joe's, there was a push to remove one of the coaches because we weren't winning. So
Right.
At what point in time does the institution, does the ownership, does whatever have to? What is the point that that they have to start kind of looking at stuff, or do they just let it kind of run? And the funny part is that the athletic director at St. Joe's she was the assistant AD, right, Jim, at Notre Dame.
I can't comment on that. I don't know. Some form of position at Notre Dame.
She came from Notre Dame, so it's basically that's what we're basically talking
she
about.
She certainly wasn't the AD. She didn't leave.
Right?
the
No.
AD.
Right. So the question is where do you draw the line? And Crazy Man brought up, it's the players. I said,
Yeah, but you also looked at back and when we played with heart. I mean, we played knowing that we definitely weren't going to go out pro. These kids nowadays feel that they're going to go out and do what they want and become in the second or third draft and so forth. So I think you had the clientele, if you want to say, the kids during our age, we did it for fun. We did it as a passion. Now everybody thinks that they're going to be the next LeBron James or Michael Jordan. Right. So you're looking at the different generations on what they had and what they believed in.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, here's look, I think about firings and hirings and stuff like that in the same way I think about it with almost any business. What's the context, right? Are they dealing with a ton of injuries and a horrible schedule, and he just doesn't have a lot of talent, and he's actually pulling off better with the talent, better records than he thought? I mean, you can be under 500, but if you're at 400 when everybody thought you're going to be at 200, then maybe you hang on for a couple more years. I don't know anything about the season or anything about the context.
Right.
But,
neither does Ed, but
but I'm looking at it from but I'm looking at it from just an emotional fan base that anybody who went to like St. Joe's, BC, I won't say Villanova because like any of the Holy Cross, you always want to win. You want to be back in a winner no matter what, even though you're a small guy, right? I mean, where did you go?
Boston College.
Yeah, you went to Boston. Yeah, okay, that's
and
why
and when I was there, it was lean years for football. For example, I was there my freshman year. It was Darren Flutie's year, not Doug Flutie's year. his younger brother, and things just got worse from there on out to the point where I think my junior year, I was one of the classic American college kids who got 2 hours into tailgating before the game and decided to sell his ticket to someone who didn't have one and stay in the parking lot and tailgate because we were just so bad
Right.
that it wasn't
And-
worth going to watch the team.
And
play.
Mike, how long did they keep that coach around?
Oh, we went through 2 coaches in my 4 years. So
Right.
yeah, I mean,
Right.
like, sure, yeah. There is also something to be said for the fact that if you have a couple losing seasons in a row, somebody's got to get fired. Like, some changes have got to be made somehow, right? And whether it's
So-
the athletic director higher up or the coach of the team, somebody's got to go.
So it was just interesting for me to stumble upon Ed's post when Ed was so dejected and upset that all these people were losing their jobs in
Right.
local DC government. And now he's calling for the head of St. Joe's basketball when the guy you could argue he's been somewhat successful. Now, Alan, you bring up a good
I'm not.
point.
I'm not putting on my. I'm not putting on my Doge hat there, Jim, and going.
Well, it was.
and I'm not. And I'm not
it was
becoming a
pretty
Doge guy.
close.
No, it wasn't.
I think-
Yeah,
I think we
yeah.
might be.
Yeah.
I think we might be comparing apples and basketballs
Yeah.
here.
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
not so sure.
Thank
they're
you, Mike.
the
No,
same
I-
situation.
No,
He's starting a
Billy
little
Lang. No
uprising.
disrespect to Coach Lang, but he's
Yeah.
been there for 6 years, and he's
So
He-
a couple
you know,
things
he's-
I want to say about it. First of all, the college and pro game, they've come a lot closer than when we went to school. You know, with all this what I don't even know what the term is where college kids make money now. What the heck is it called?
NIL.
NIL. All right. And they transfer in and out like it's nothing. I mean, they change teams like it's nothing. So, you know, yes, the coach has some control of that. But at the end of the day, kids are
Right.
going to come and go if they want to come and go, which makes
Mhm.
that job even more difficult.
Sure.
I also believe
Absolutely.
that makes your comparison to Coach Martelli's tenure and Billy Lang's tenure a little bit difficult. Like Mike said, something like basketballs to apples. Maybe it's a little closer to volleyballs to basketballs. I don't know, but it's certainly, you know, not equal because I don't know what kind of team Billy Lang inherited, and I don't know what kind of team Phil Martelli inherited. I mean, a lot of times your first year you could be starting over from scratch where kids leave because the old coach is gone and this and that. You know, so
That's why I didn't do a first year comparison, Jim. I did it 6 years. That's why I was saying I looked at it the 6 year
all right,
period.
I
So
understand.
in 6 years.
I really don't think you have to go that far because look, I
I
wrestled
did.
this.
I did because crazy man. I did because I knew. I didn't think it was going to come from Jim though. I knew people. I knew.
I like giving you a hard time.
I know. I
like
know you
giving
do.
you a hard
I
time.
thought it would be
And I know there's
somebody else.
people. I know there's people in our local fan base that are certainly, if this season doesn't end on a pretty high note, which would be like winning our tournament, our conference
Right.
tournament, which is highly unlikely at this point. I know there's people that are going to be calling for his job. Now,
Oh yeah.
you know, hey, these people know when they get into this profession that it's a dog eat dog world and they're all wearing milk bone underwear. You know what I mean? Like this is the life they lead, and he'll land on his feet somewhere else if he does get canned. But I agree with you. Like we want to. Everybody wants to win. Everybody wants to win.
Right.
You know. But I also think we've lost, especially in college, some of the appeal and, you know, that grooming of young men and athletes and student athletes and concentrating on, you know, being good people and that kind of thing, character, like that kind of stuff has gone kind of by the wayside with some of our coaching changes and win at all costs attitudes at the D1 level. You know what I mean? Especially if they don't give them enough time to establish the culture that they want to establish at that level. I don't know.
Well, I mean, if you really look at the college game, the college sports game now with the NIL and the transfer portal,
Mm-hmm.
it's like a time machine. I mean, you just step in and you can go where, and it's I think it was Gino Oriema of Connecticut was saying, it's basically a semi-pro league now. College basketball, because they come in and they're looking for the highest bidder. I mean, there are these kids that just on their name are making 7 figures. Nothing
Mhm.
more. I mean,
Yeah.
think about
Yeah.
that. I mean, God bless, God bless the United States of America. Hopefully the Doge don't find that money from them, because they'll be. But it's just kind of it's taking. I think the NCAA went way too far to the other side when they
Yeah.
opened it all up.
Well, but see, at the same time, let's say when those college kids were not supposed to pay it, but they were paid under the table, it was not a better system in my opinion. It was like just basically like a black market, payments, not open payments.
Right.
Plus,
I
these
mean, at the
guys,
same
these guys were all leaving. They were all leaving after 1 year. They were one and done. They were all one and done because they were like, well, if I can't get paid in college, I may as well enter the draft after 1 year and get paid. So I think the NCAA was trying to get away from that a little bit as well with the NIL. What's up, Pete?
How are you, Pete? What's going
Hi.
on in the fire? We'll transfer. Is this you, Pete, telling me that you're in the back? Yeah. Oh, you're fine, Pete. You're trying to keep.
I'm
You're
here.
trying to keep New York. You're trying to keep New York safe, being the fire commissioner. Come on, man.
Yeah, today was.
So-
I mean, I can't
World
talk
champion.
too much. Oh, yeah, I'm having. Go Eagles, go Birds.
Go
But
Birds.
it was a tough meeting. The public was not happy with us commissioners today, so that's all I'm going to say. It was rough facing the public today. And it went
Pete,
long. It was a
don't
bit-
throw that little bait out there and say
I
that's
didn't
all
say
I'm
it.
going to
I'm not going to go
Okay.
any further on this.
No, but really, I
Ian's
just
going to Google it.
I mean, it's all public. I had to be careful what I say. Basically, the preceding the commission went to the citizens to get them to vote on a bond, a $1.5 million, $1.8 million bond to build a new firehouse. Right, our firehouse is from the 50s, falling apart. That was 2019. Then something happened right after that. I can't remember what. Something happened and screwed up supply chains and prices and all that. COVID. And then some various other delays and egos, and it was predating me. Okay, everything got delayed, and when the commission put out the first bid, I'm learning about construction. I don't know very much about it, but it's taxpayer dollars, so it has to go out to an open bid, and the project is actually four. I think they're called 4 prime bids. So there's like HVAC, electrical, plumbing, and construction or something. And we only got one bid on all those 4, which means that it's priced. Contractors can't lock in the price because at the time, this is last year, prices were only good for, quote price. You guys are so excited, so bored. I'm so sorry. But like the bids only last 6 days. It used to be 30 to 45 days. You could lock in a bid for steel or concrete or whatever. And now it's 6 days. And so the budget was so tight that no contractor could actually lock it in except for one, electrical. And then, so we had to pull the bid, and then we shrunk everything. It's kind of a slight expansion of the existing firehouse. And then we just got it kind of scored by a third party that scores it. I don't want to say the number, but it's almost double what it was supposed to be. And that's part of just everything costs more. We got nailed by the 20 on steel. Thank you, Mr. President. That hurt. But today we had to go back to so now we're just letting you know where it is, and we're going to have to go back as a commission, and there's only a few options. Either go back to you guys for more money, kill the project, and it's a project that needs to be done because the firehouse is falling apart, or come up with some really creative other ways to get funding. So we laid out our story, and we're not really great communicators. That's what we're learning. But the public was less than thrilled with our presentation.
Right. We'll
Because the
start
public-
selling on firehouse calendars.
Pete, I cut
Say
my
what?
teeth
Sorry.
on government contracts, procurement law, and I am always amazed, frankly, that anything gets purchased or built, because what we did as a nation was in the 50s there was so much pork barreling and brother-in-laws getting contracts, and historically that we put all these rules in place to make sure things are fair, and those rules and making sure you follow them and all of the protest mechanisms just triples the prices it would. I'm not even sure if it wouldn't just be cheaper to go back to paying everybody's brother-in-law to do it, because it's
Yeah,
just
well, I mean, it's funny you say that because like my fire chief is third generation, and his grandfather built the house, like literally was the fire chief, and they didn't use any general contractors. They just told everyone in the town, hey, we need your help, and in the fire company at the time in the 50s,
yeah,
we
built it.
who knows how to lay brick, let's go, and they built it
Right.
themselves.
Almost like an Amish barn raising.
Yep.
Yeah, I made that joke. I'm like, what we need is an good old fashioned Amish firehouse company barn raising, and everyone's like,
there you go, right?
jokes. I realize jokes, humor doesn't go over well in these meetings. I'm going to stop doing it. Not this one.
Really?
Public meetings.
Why? You would think that it would, because it's a whole bunch by
Lighten the
the
mood a
general
little bit,
public
yeah.
or just by the commissioners.
No. The other commissioners, it's general public, and and of course the people that come to the meetings are all in their 70s and 80s, which is great, but they want the facts. I understand. So I'm gonna
I have a friend who's a councilman at large from Montgomery County, and he says honestly, if you want the most accurate depiction of public hearings, are the ones on the show Parks and Recreation, which is meant to be a pure comedy. But whenever they have scenes where it's public hearings, he's like, whoever wrote these scenes has sat through hours of public hearings. These are exactly the kinds of things we deal with.
Well, it's funny. As a public hearing, we as a commission don't have to answer any questions. But no, we never say that. We should say that at the beginning. So people go on these rants, and they're like, right? Like, so what are you going to do about it? We're like, next.
You don't have to. Good.
You don't have to answer it. You have to answer it there. We say we'll answer it later, but a lot of people want that in the moment thing, and we're like,
right, of course, yeah.
We'll take it under consideration.
Yeah, we'll get back to you at our next meeting, which is in a month.
Yeah.
And then somebody will lose the notes, and next thing you know, what was that question again? Go ahead, Jim.
No, we try to answer. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah, Jim.
Well, I excuse my ignorance, because we're just school. Crazy Man and I are just school teachers. We're not very bright, but
Just
in the public sector,
speak for yourself.
I'm sorry, just me.
He's a jerk. Well, Jim's a
genius.
Jersey school teacher.
Yeah.
So that's.
But like in the public sector, isn't there something where you have to go with the lowest bid?
Yes, but
there's a name for that shit.
Yeah, but what I learned with this is we can also just pull the bid if we're not happy with the bids. So even if they're either not low or like we only got one, so that means there's something really majorly wrong with the project plus the external factors. So we always have even if everyone came in super low, we can say, you know what, actually we need to pull this for some reason.
Right. Like if everybody comes in super low, but the contractors themselves are all disreputable and don't have any references, or if the bids are, we're going to do it this way, we're going to make it out of balsa wood. There's all these different reasons why you can say
you can get out. There's a way out. Okay.
Yeah, but the other thing that's interesting is that we wanted it to. We were hoping, and we're still hoping, we'll see what happens, to get local, smaller contractors and smaller local businesses.
Right. Yeah.
But then I don't know if it's a state. It might be state law that they have to carry a bond, right? So they have to carry a bond. So it's very complicated, but so they have to carry a bond. So if it all goes to shit, then we can get some of that money back, right? But I just found out tonight that it's up to us to say how much they need to do. Like if so the state law, it's like really high, but then we can lower it if we wanted to, but that's a slippery slope because it's not our money, it's taxpayer money. So it's just really, it's serious shit. Like I know I'm at a very low level of the political game, but oh my God, it's like, it's really not your money. So you can't even think that way. And it's hard to override.
Right.
Like for me, even today, I just said, look, speaking personally as myself, the community needs a firehouse, a better firehouse than we have. This building is going to fall down. And then we're going to come to you if we don't pass this soon.
Put them on mine.
And then it's going to cost $5 million instead of $2 million. I mean, that's the reality, right? But I understand that's not my money; it's your money. So it's you. We're going to do a better job of when we decide what we're going to do, tell the story and lay it out for you, all the facts. But the facts are, we have a building that's from 1953, and people in the audience are like, perfectly fine. It's like
it's kind of funny, Pete. I'm sitting here listening to you. In every election, pretty much, there are referendums for bonds. For the bond, there are bond referendums for here in Loudoun County. It's either a school, a fire station, school and fire station, something or something like that, because it's just the county, and it compared to like your people saying it's 100 years old, you're fine. It's go outside to go to the bathroom. The plumbing's great. We're sitting here. I mean, like it's usually like they're $2 million, $3 million bonds or whatever they are, and they usually pass with flying colors. Nobody even thinks twice. You check yes. I mean, we need.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in a relatively like poor county, but like our school taxes are $9,000 a year. The fire tax is $700 a year, and this would maybe raise it by $3, I think, per person. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe a little more than that, but that's like too much.
Right.
Anyway,
but that's
the people who show up at the meetings,
right? And it's just
exactly the 4 people that show up. It's like
right. But those 4 people make enough noise that it gives you pause.
Well, because they represent. Go ahead. Sorry, Alex.
In Los Angeles, we had like a bond, like probably 15 or 20 years ago, to like install AC in all the schools, because it gets hot and whatnot, like August and stuff. We passed the bond, and then somebody else says, "Oh, we need another bond to do AC." I mean, what happened to the money that we approved like 20 years ago? No one knows. Or there is like a bond to help homeless. Well, we had so many bonds, we still have more homeless than before. Again, what happened with the money? I mean, and that's why people are like, okay, why are we waiting for another bond if the money we passed a couple times before didn't really work? What's the point of adding more money to a debt? I mean, that's how people think,
No, but also that's but that's a good point. Like we need to. I was going to say sorry, but like we at least in our local level, we did a terrible job of like laying out the transparency and the pros and cons and all that, because we all have other jobs, no excuse, but we're all busy. But that's what they're asking.
If you have a small place and you have like a farmhouse to build or to rebuild, that's one thing. But in a city as big as LA or LA County, I mean, money just gets kind of, lost in translation, if you will. I mean, nobody knows what happened. There are millions of fire stations, millions of schools, millions of homeless shelters and stuff, and then no one knows why the bond that we passed 20 years ago didn't work. And we need
there's not millions of fire stations in California. You're being hyperbolic, but like
exactly. But
per capita has not stations for the people in California. Sorry, I'm all firefighter guy now. Sorry, I'll shut up.
Hey Jim, so
I got good news. I found a source for $4 a dozen eggs today.
All right,
is it a chicken?
I'm so excited.
No, sure
we have so many local people that have little farm markets, little even just residential people with chickens that are selling fresh eggs. And I think it's great. Like, I think we need to get back, and this kind of plays in a little bit, Pete, when you make the reference to, an Amish barn raising. Like, I think we got to get back to community type living and helping each other. Now, Alex, it's a little bit harder where you are. I get that. And there's a reason I don't live in a big, metropolis.
Okay. But see, we have a chain of smaller supermarkets called Trader Joe's.
We got Trader Joe's.
Trader Joe's.
And they still sell their brand, like their brand of eggs, cheaper than anybody else.
Yep.
Okay.
They're a national chain too.
Yeah, they are.
Well, the only problem is, not the problem, but because everybody's going there to buy eggs, they now have a policy, 1 carton of eggs per person, per visit. Because like all the national chains sell them like 2 or 3 times as much. And everybody goes to the Joe's to buy them, So, which is fine. If you buy 1 carton a day, I still plenty of eggs, in my opinion,
Right. You can go every day and buy 1 carton. Yeah.
So Ed, do you have the same thing out in Virginia that we have here in Maryland? Like, Jim, to your point about being near a metropolis, we're real close to Washington, D.C., but there must be a half a dozen farmers markets every weekend within 10 minutes of my house where farm trucks from out in the rural parts of Maryland come in, and you can buy all that stuff. Now, some of it's sort of boutique-y, and fancy, but some of it's just some guy on a truck with a bunch of eggs, and he's selling them a lot cheaper in the supermarket. So why not?
We have actually the Loudon Hospital is just down the street, 5 minutes, and they do in the spring they'll do a farmers market for like 6 months, and then if you just go west from where I am, where Alan is, you end up in horse country. So where there's farms, there's markets.
That's Washington D.C.
No, going the other way.
You go 20 minutes north of me, you're same thing. You get on 270 and drive for 20 minutes, you're halfway to Frederick, Maryland.
Yeah, exactly. You had,
and a lot of them, definitely will have the meats and so forth, but very few eggs that I saw over the last couple of years.
Yeah.
In a big city like Los Angeles, we have farmers markets in various places at least once a week. Let's say there's a farmers market on Monday at this place, on Wednesday at that place, on Thursday. Basically, there's almost every day some kind of a farmers market in various areas. And if you really follow, you can go and buy fresh produce, like strawberries and whatnot, eggs and etc. Okay, because there are like farms in like.
I saw a good joke on the internet the other day. It was like an old guy talking to a bunch of kids in the future, and he was like, back in my day, because whenever there's like a blizzard, there's like a blizzard, it's always toilet paper and dairy, right? And he's like, back in my day, eggs and toilet paper were so cheap, we used to throw those things at people's houses.
And
exactly.
It was 2-ply.
Oh yeah. I can't spare a square. I can't spare a square.
I can't spare a square. Exactly.
I pose that question,
and they're fantastic.
I pose that question. Like, are our kids going to say, whoever has kids, I forget who's, but are they going to say the same thing as adults when they have their kids that we say to them? Like,
they're going to say, what I find is it's because I talked to my dad about this stuff is, he got up to no good on certain nights of the year. The night before Halloween was called Mischief Night in the town he grew up in. And it was always the October 30th. And they would go out and he would say, well, we do crazy stuff. And I'd say, what, like toilet paper houses? And he'd be like, oh, no, we used to take the leaves on the sides of the roads and rake them into the middle of the road and light them on fire. Like he says stuff that would be like, what? He's like, you do it all the time. And then the cops would come and get us.
We did the poop on the doorstep and light it up.
On the doorstep. No. There's all these different pranks people play, but like our kids just do like my kids just do different kinds of pranks. I mean, it sounds completely dweeby to me, but like my kids were telling me this story the other day about how they took some photo of some kid and changed it to make him look like something and posted it on. Like half of their practical jokes take place online.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
It's the same SWAT
teams. My kids send SWAT teams to people they don't want.
Yeah, there you go. You SWAT each other. Yeah.
Called SWAT. I think it's great. It's like every generation has a different thing.
Right. Exactly. I call ICE. My kids call ICE on somebody they don't like.
Yeah.
We're done. See what happens.
I just go up and I say,
the door.
Yeah. Hey, do you have your papers with you?
Do you remember prank calling?
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. You just randomly pick up the phone book and just dial somebody.
They got Prince in the can. You better let them out.
Is your refrigerator
running? Better go catch it.
Yeah.
Michael knows my wife really well. She's a expert professional prank caller, and we were just talking about this the other day. She laments that now you just can't. She even lived through the caller ID and all that, but she would make so many prank calls to companies, individuals, but now she's like, you just can't do it anymore. No one answers the phone.
There's a comedian who's basically made a whole career out of, and his bits are great. I'll have to find his name and send it out to you guys. Where basically he sets up fake websites of corporations or Twitter feeds of corporations and does pranks on them, and then they get angry and it's just it's a whole different way of doing the prank call. He pretends to be Wendy's and puts something out there making fun of something Wendy does, and gets back, and then he ends up like even going to their offices and pretending to work for them. Like it gets crazy some of the stuff he does.
Wasn't there a TV show where guys were doing that? What the heck was it?
The Impractical Jokers.
Well, that one I know of, but
Yeah,
Crank.
yeah.
There was Crank Yankers.
Crank
Yeah.
Crank Yankers.
Crank Yankers. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there were the jerky. Before that, there were the jerky boys.
Jerky Boys.
Yes.
The Jerky Boys. Yeah.
And you know, like it's all like, I mean, I entertain myself. I got a random text from someone the other day that said, are we having that barbecue party tonight? And I could just detect in the awkward phrasing of barbecue party that it was clearly spam.
Was that from your dad? Was that from your dad?
Being or a robot? My only question is like, and so I just replied, sure, I'll bring the coleslaw. And I got some reply, and I went for 10 minutes, nonsensical replies. And it was sort of like, I'm bringing my special coleslaw. And their replies were always like a little bit off. I'm pretty sure it was about like, that would be great. How much? And I would reply, by special coleslaw, I mean there's peyote in it. You know, like I was just getting weirder and weirder. And the person just kept responding. And I'm like, this is clearly me just entertaining myself with some bot somewhere. And,
I've been having
whatever.
I've been having blasts
or a 10-year-old kid
where they'll start calling you about buying things and that, and I basically go, Acme Dildo Company,
right?
How many dildos do you need? We are running a special.
My father-in-law will answer the phone and string the guy along for a potential sale for a while, and then say, "Hold on one second, I need to get someone at the door," and he'll put his mobile phone down and walk away. And just never come back.
Yeah.
Because his theory is, let's see how long this cold caller person from some phone bank in Sri Lanka is going to stay on the line waiting for me to come back because they think there's a sale.
No, who knows? It might be that general who has $3 million that you need to.
The disposed Nigerian prince who's on the yacht offshore. He just needs a bank account to park his money.
You need your bank account and your social security number and all that stuff.
We finally got rid of our landline after begging and pleading to the wife, which I never answered a call on that. I think the past 10 years,
So
I'm like, why do we need a landline?
Exactly.
So my wife works for.
I miss it. We don't have one. We haven't had it for years, but I miss it.
My wife works for NBC, and they're on
I miss
the
visual. I miss the visual of the phone on the wall. Like I miss that.
So my wife works for NBC and they're owned by Comcast, so she learns all the inside scoop on this stuff. And basically, a lot of these cable companies, they'll package the bundle of home line, Wi-Fi, and TV is cheaper than if you just buy two. And that's completely so that they can report to their stockholders on Wall Street that they're still servicing X number of landlines.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have a bundle. But literally, whatever that number is, and I could probably remember it if I tried real hard, used to go to one of those cordless phones that sat on a base.
Yeah,
that thing's batteries died. We lost it, or the dog chewed it, or something. If you call that number, it goes to a voicemail box that's full. The only people who call it are my in-laws. Still call it sometimes, like on Sundays, thinking we're going to answer because they can't keep track of the numbers, and then they call one of the mobile numbers. But we only have it so that the whole package is cheaper. We don't use it for anything.
Yeah, too funny.
Yeah.
Now I'm looking at that cordless phone that sits on the base that's not hooked up anymore, and I'm like, what do I do with that thing? Can I get it? Can I get $1 for it? Should I trade it for a dozen eggs or something? Like
put it in the microwave, film it, and put it on the internet, or stick it in the box and sell it on eBay 20 years from now for $40 as a relic.
That's the good idea.
I remember in the 80s, always whenever I using that, I'd say talking to your cordless from like Revenge of the Nerds or whatever. Like, was it, no, not Revenge of the Nerds. Was it Sure Thing or something? One of those movies. It was like, I'm talking to your cordless.
Talking about practical jokes, I had a cousin who figured out, or he knew somebody who worked at the phone company. And when we would hang out at the beach in New Jersey on the Jersey Shore, and there was a bank of payphones right along one wall by the boardwalk. And he knew so the phone guys, when they would test the phone to see if it worked, there was a number they could dial without putting a quarter in. They'd punch in a number, they'd click the thing twice, they'd hang it up, you'd count to 10, and the phone would ring. And it was just a test to see if the ringer worked. But he knew this number. So we would do it and then go stand off to the side and watch people walking by and pick them up. And we thought, 12 years old, this was the height of comedy. Practical joke, watching people pick up a phone and no one was there. We just thought it was the funniest thing in the world.
You remember making collect calls and like
Yes.
you would try and get a message in real quick before
you
you had to accept the charges. Pick me up at 52nd Street. Will you accept the charges? No. All right.
I worked at a sleepaway summer camp one summer when I was a teenager, and there was a payphone in like this faculty lounge, and somewhere when we at the beginning of the summer, the head of the camp said it's cheaper if your parents call you on that payphone. So what everybody would do is they'd go to the payphone, they'd call their parents collect. Their parents would deny the charge, but they knew that meant you were standing by the phone. Then you would hang up and wait, and it would ring. And and so that 5-minute phone conversation now cost $5 instead of $10 or whatever.
Yeah.
Because they called it instead of you calling them collect.
What I was really amazed back in 94, 95 when I came to the States, that payphones had like a number on them, so somebody can call you. I mean, because back in the day, in Soviet Union, Ukraine, I mean, it was like only one-way call. You can call somebody from a payphone, but no one would be able to call you back. I was like, okay, hey, I can stay by the payphone, and somebody can call me back, and we can have a conversation. Okay, so I mean, it was like, wow, fucking technology,
There's a payphone. I don't know if it's still there, but in the 80s and 90s, there's a payphone in like on a highway in Arizona, like outside Winslow, Arizona, which is a rural like town in Arizona, and a performance artist basically would call that number in the middle of the night, like, and it became a thing. Like and if you got there, he would sing you a song or tell you a poem or just talk to you. It went on for years. There's like this like one of those weird things that you could call in the middle of the night. He was there. You call that and he would answer it, and he would do something for you.
Because that's a line. That's in the song. Winslow,
well, the Eagles mentioned Winslow, Arizona, but
Eagle,
I'm
trying to say
Winslow, Arizona. I don't know what. Go ahead.
If you remember local DC guys, Don and Mike there was a radio show, two guys, and they used to do a contest like twice a month where they would announce at the beginning of their show, it was like a 4-hour radio show in the afternoon, that there's a payphone at like the Montgomery Mall by the Nordstrom's entrance, and there's in Bethesda, and there's a payphone at the Exxon station, the corner of this and this in Northern Virginia, and we're going to call each of those payphones in 2.5 hours, and whichever payphone has the most number of Don and Mike fans standing around waiting for the call, we're going to give everybody at that payphone, tickets to an amusement park or some prize or whatever. And literally they would call it 2.5 hours later, and there'd be like 30, 40 people just standing around a payphone. And it was the stupidest contest in the world, but people would literally, I left work early to be here, or I skipped a law school class to be here. I did that, just to be here, and they'd make whichever. How many people are at that phone, and literally they'd pick somebody. You're the team captain for your phone. Now count heads, and then make everybody get on and say hello to verify. It was hilarious. It was so stupid.
Dude, like They Might Be Giants had like a 1-900 number where they did a new song every day in the 90s. You could call it. It cost like $1 something a minute, but they recorded a new song every day for like I want to say like 5 months, something crazy. They weren't all good, but like you'd have to call to hear it, and they were playing into the phone.
Well, you know what's even funny? They don't even
recording.
I have Sirius XM on my car. Vlad got it for me for my birthday or Father's Day, one of them. But anyway, on the 80s channel, check this out. They have all on the 80s music. It's all the old DJs from MTV.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It's really kind of funny. But my whole point to that is like, you listen to these stations, there's no commercials because you're subscription based. The guys talk or the girls talk for 30 seconds. They plug their experience or whatever, and they go on. So there's none of that, Don and Mike. The Grease Man. Right. I mean, remember the Grease Man earlier?
Oh, sure. Dr. Demento.
Yeah.
Dr. Demento. Yeah. He was great.
Howard Stern when he was here in DC,
Sandy Weaver.
Yeah, Sandy Weaver. Exactly.
207. Top 10 of 10.
Yes, the top
10.
10 of 10.
Sorry.
I mean,
Top 5 of 10. Heather, correct.
Radio's no longer like that.
So there's a playlist. Maybe it was Peter. Peter, was you. The Howard Hessman thing. You're frozen, Pete.
Oh yeah.
I'll speak for
Yeah.
Pete.
Oh,
He's
sorry.
frozen.
That was
He's
just a
having a long drink.
Yeah.
Is it a playlist on Spotify or something?
Yeah,
There's a
I'll
playlist
put it in the chat. I'll put it in the chat.
It's a playlist where it's every song introduced by Dr. Johnny Fever on the show WKRP in Cincinnati.
Oh, wow.
With him introducing the songs, like you're listening to a radio show by him. It's great.
that's
Great
cool.
show, by the way. Great
Yeah,
show.
that is a great show.
As God is my witness, I thought turkeys could fly. Classic.
TV was so much better back then.
The tape around his cubicle, and he would.
Oh yeah, Les Nessman.
Yeah.
My son and I recently watched Spinal Tap together, and I had forgotten that Howard Hessman plays. He has a cameo as an older rock star, and he has one of the greatest blow-off lines in the world. He's coming out of the elevator at the hotel, and they're going in, and they all stop and start chatting with each other. The guys from Spinal Tap and Howard Hessman, and he's dressed up like a greaser. He's got like a leather jacket. He looks like sort of a Springsteen type guy. And they're like, "Hey, how you doing, man? And what arena are you playing?" You know, he's playing some big arena, and they're playing some dumpy little place. And he says, "Well, I'd love to stay and chat with you guys, but I have to go stand in the lobby and wait for the limousine." just turns and walks away. Like, I have to go wait someplace else. It was just like, that's fantastic. And my son took a beat, and I said, "You realize how he blew that guy?" Yeah, that's amazing.
Has anybody seen any of the movies out, either the Dylan one or the Led Zeppelin one?
I saw both.
Both of them?
I saw the Zeppelin documentary on IMAX with my son on Tuesday night.
Good.
And this past week. It was fantastic. It brings you through their first two albums, their childhood, how they met, and their first two albums. It's called Becoming Led Zeppelin, and it's phenomenal. And they've got interviews with everybody, like in-person interviews with everybody, and an audio recording of the drummer, John, what's his name, Bonham, because he died in '80. But they've got an old audio recording of him basically talking about the same stuff, his childhood and how he got together with these guys. And it's fascinating. And then the Dylan movie is like any biopic. It takes some liberties with the details.
Mm-hmm.
So like Joan Baez wasn't really living in New York at the time, whatever. But basically, it does totally capture the spirit of when he decided to go electric and how upsetting it was to the Newport folk scene, who felt like they had brought him along and he was going to save folk music and all that stuff. But I tell you, man, Timothée Chalamet, my daughter's a huge fan. I am now a guy, I've seen him interviewed a few times on the subject. He didn't know much about Dylan when he started the project 5 years ago. And now he just keeps saying he hopes this makes people his generation appreciate him more. And the kid should get, I mean, if the kid doesn't get nominated for an Oscar, it's I don't understand it. He did a great job. It's a great movie.
Yeah, I hear good things.
Yeah. If you're a Dylan fan, you won't be disappointed.
I'm not like a huge Dylan fan, but I appreciate him and would certainly check it out.
I just like origin. I like origin stories. Like, how did he become, or how did Led Zeppelin become?
It's pretty
Led
great.
Zeppelin?
They're both.
I appreciate those.
Shit, I'm gonna run out of battery.
Well, actually, Jim, we're coming up here on 50 minutes, and we usually keep it within the hour. Actually, before we wrapped it up, I wanted to, Alan, Crazy Man, tell the people about what you're going to be doing this weekend. It's kind of good. It's kind of along stuff that you're really passionate about and that you really do, or that you really kind of get into.
I will actually be in Richmond with OEW. We have our gala, so we have a silent auction that we are doing to raise money to bring honorees to different events, pay for different things for them. So we have some stuff from some canvas, prints to backpacks to there's like a 3-4 day trail that you will actually be with an OEW team through the Grand Canyon. I would love to do I got some of the local restaurants around, like Lazy Dog, to donate like gift cards to raise money for that. So yeah, that looking forward to that.
That's awesome. Do you have
Good stuff.
Did you have a picture of that? Do you have that canvas with you, or did you already do whatever you would? Because that's
Oh,
really sharp.
I had the canvas around the corner. You want me to grab it?
Yeah, grab it and just show them. I show the guys this. I think it's really cool what was done. It's a cool thing.
I worked with an artist out in Utah, and he came up with this design, and I went ahead and got it printed.
Yes, and the design is the blank of Crazy Man leaving the screen. It's just that, and that's what we're auctioning off, that blank square. Anyway, that's
So
Oh wow,
yeah. So
cool.
So
I
yeah,
thought
this
so.
is. So yeah, this was actually what has our Operation Enduring Warrior on top, but it also has our mission where we honor, empower, and motivate our veterans, Leos, and fire. So whatever they're going through, we pay for them to come out. So we had at the end of last season, we had a 92-year-old World War II veteran in Florida at a Spartan race. We have some veterans, police officers, as well as fire, that are doing some of the stuff, and so they don't feel that they have to be locked up. I met with a gentleman like 6 years ago. Well, he's been he was actually at one point in his house for about 4.5 years. He was an officer. He saw a lot of stuff that he tried to take his own life. So we brought him out to show him that he can still be productive. The problem with our society, and it's from both sides, is that society wants our veterans, Leos, and fire, since they've given up and got hurt doing something to save them, they want them to conform to society, where unfortunately society needs to conform to these individuals because they put their lives on the life for them each and every day.
Mhm.
And officers, fire department, and veterans, they don't look at your financial. They don't look if you're Republican or Democrat. Their main job is to protect you. So it's one way for me to help and give back to those individuals.
excellent.
Good stuff, man.
Thank you there, man.
Really good
All
stuff.
right.
Thank you, Alan.
Is there a link you can send us how we can donate to that event? Or
Yeah, I can send you a link. I can also send you my link that I have a fundraising page that I'm raising money as well. Roughly about 92 to 93% of every dollar goes back to the organization.
why don't you
So
send
the
the link to Ed and he can send it to like all of us?
Yeah,
This is
send me
my-
the link, and I'll
Put
send
it
it
on
out to Mike. and Pete.
Also, we can all get it.
Yeah, put on Slack.
I'll
You
send
put
it to
Slack,
Ed.
on Decades.
Yeah, I'll make sure it gets out to everybody. Well, gentlemen, this was another excellent show. Thank you for everybody who joined us. Does anybody have any final words for the? I'm gonna give it. Actually, I got to give a shout out to Kendu. Kendu's watching, Jim.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I just saw he's on watching on Instagram. Ken, thank you for tuning in, and everybody else.
Thank you, Ken.
The few people who've chimed in. This is good conversation, and this is really what I foresee this being. Is like we were just talking about stuff,
You should.
right? Sports.
yeah.
We learned a little bit about New York politics and taxes and firehouses, and we learned about the cost of eggs. So good stuff. Appreciate you guys all just taking time out of your busy day. If nobody has anything else to say, just remember next week it's Decades Thunderdome, 9:30, with your friend and mine, Chris Rubio, and the rest of the gang out
I
there.
have a question about that, Ed, and maybe this is a question for Rubio, but like, can anybody pop in on that, or you got to
Yeah.
be like invited?
No,
Yeah.
it's anybody. It's just like this. I don't.
We don't discriminate.
I don't. I know. It's like anybody, but I know some. But it's called Thunderdome for a reason. And ask Mike and Pete why it's called Thunderdome now. It gets a little
I've been
thunderous.
watching it. I've been watching.
No,
You know that.
If you want the link just to pop in, if you want to pop in, sure. Absolutely. Everybody's welcome.
All right.
Rubio is an equal opportunity.
I don't know.
arguer.
Rubio threatened to keep some people backstage when I.
If they let me on, they'll let anybody on. Trust me.
You know what? If Rubio doesn't, just remember, Decades Thunderdome, I control who's on and off. So,
All right. Good to know.
actually, I'll send you the link. Remember, 9:30 next week. Everybody have a good rest of your week, and thank you for tuning in. Out.
Peace.